Hey everybody, welcome to episode 5 of the MASA Project. Today we get two awesome guests, Dennis Mathias and Bob Thomas. Dennis Mathias, we've talked to him before. He's one of the founders of MASA and a director of MASA. Dennis has long been an advocate for linking the health industry and the fitness industry together. He has a lot of thoughts on current issues within industry and what the industry can do to improve. And also we have Bob Thomas. Bob has worked in various owner and operation roles in the industry. He's run 5-star health clubs, and he was part of the executive team that scaled Lifetime Fitness from 6 clubs to 120. So that was really interesting. We get into that a little bit today. So without further ado, let's dive in. All right, we're here with the MASA Podcast, and we have Bob Thomas and Dennis Mathias joining us today. Welcome, guys.
Hey, TJ, how are you?
Good. Thanks for joining. All right, so I want to start off talking about the current model of gyms. It seems like there's a lot of people in today's society don't feel comfortable or don't really fit with the current gym model. Can you guys kind of dive into that and explain who those people are and why that is?
Yeah, go on, Dennis. Why don't you take the lead on this one?
Okay. Thanks, Bob. First of all, TJ, thanks again for hosting the podcast. The Bobcast. There you go. It's a Bobcast. Anyway, so first of all, Bob, thanks for being on. This is going to be a special podcast, TJ. Bob's been around the industry certainly as long as I have. What I think is going to make this really special is here you have two guys that have lived in the belly of the beast our whole adult lives. Our mindset comes from that of a operator, manager, whatever you want to call it. But what drives us from having been there. Still, you can't do it as long as we have, and it's not second nature. So anything we're going to say tonight, anything anyone is going to hear, is coming from the inside of the industry itself, mindset out, not outside in. So when Bob has a comment, he's a guy that built his own chain of clubs in the 80s and 90s, and then he worked for Lifetime, which is the gold standard of the industry right now as far as large clubs. So he's got a very, very good view. And I want to make this point, and Bob, you can confer with this. Bob and I, most of our career involved being in large clubs, large 100,000, 200,000 square foot high-end clubs. And as I think Bob will agree, there's a big difference between being in a high-end club and being in any other clubs. Not good, bad, or indifferent. It's just when you're in a high-end club, it's the equivalent of being an all-inclusive resort. Everybody is going to expect they're getting the best of everything and things they don't even know exist, or they can just pay for a nice hotel down on the beach and go from there. So high-end clubs are the same thing. I say that because when you're operating a high-end club, chain of high-end clubs, like Bob and I did, we have to be innovative. We can't stay inside the box because our members will come back from Aspen or Canyon Ranch or whatever and say, "Hey, how come you don't have a?" And if at any point they go, "Well, I can get your treadmills for $10 down at Planet," and it does become that decision. So. The point of that being that Bob and I have a mindset of having to think outside the box our entire career, having to do things that aren't already the norm in the industry, having to be always up on trends. Large clubs are more susceptible to new industry trends than the normal club because people will look at it and say, okay, I'm paying $150, I'm paying $200 a month. Oh, but look at this cool little thing over here. Okay, I can move over that way, or okay, so we have to constantly be doing that. I say that because as Bob and I step away and we try and move the industry into its new phase, we've been doing that our entire life. We've been in a club that had to constantly be ahead of the trends, had to constantly be aware of the trends. So there's plenty of studies and all that out, and I hear all the data coming off of Wall Street and all that sort of thing. But guys like Bob and I already know it. We don't need Wall Street trends. We don't need studies. We just need to look around the industry and we can kind of tell what's going on. Bob, you want to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, Dennis, you're spot on. One of the things I think where Dennis is going with this, and to summarize it, is we build experiences, TJ. I mean, there's brick and mortar, and there's, everybody's doing brick and mortar, and you have HVLPs that are, put together a really nice club, but they're not building the experience. That's the one thing that I think what Dennis is getting to is the difference between our experience, what we come from, and what we believe the industry's at right now. And I believe there's a preface that we are looking at right now that we can say, all right, let's get back to the experience. Let's stop looking at the reoccurring revenue as being your focus, that's your Bible, and that's what you're really focusing on. What you should be focused on is the experience. And it goes back to what Dennis is saying. There's been trends along the way over the last 4 or 5 decades that we've been, or 4.5 decades that I've been involved, that every time there's been a new thing that's come out, whether it be, the boutique space, or now we're in strength training. Now everybody's focused on strength training. It's really are they focusing on the experience? Because anybody can go build the brick and mortar. I mean, you can build finishes, you can build, put nice counters in there, you can put nice lockers, but it's really the focus on the experience that Dennis is referring to. That really is what we are focusing on what we're talking about now, and the next steps of of where fitness and strength training is going to. Dennis, does that make sense, you guys?
Makes total sense. So to undigress, sorry about that, TJ, but I thought it was important that the listener know that, a little bit about that. Anyway, let me answer your question. Who's not served? And Bob just nailed it. We've talked about this in previous podcasts. We built boxes with equipment for people that exercise. So who do we serve? We serve people that exercise. We have been doing that for 40 years. Whether we build a big box with a whole bunch of equipment, a smaller box with small equipment, we were the place for somebody that already was using a treadmill or weight equipment or a pool or whatever it was we had. We built it for them to come. Hence, we got stuck at the 20% since day one. Who's not served, and we'll get into a little bit more detail as we go through this. Who's not served is the 80% of the market, which if you really like sweets, would you rather have 80% of the pie or 20% of the pie?
Yep, 80%.
Okay, yeah, well, me too. Which is why I have to take the 20 out quick. So yeah, there's a lot deeper answer to who's not being served and why and blah, 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 blah. But the direct answer to your question is the 80% of the market who I know you have the pie chart, and I know you've seen this before, that there's a huge chunk of that 80% that is right there, probably even thinking about exercise, might have been told by their doctor about exercise, may have seen something on TV, whatever the case may be. But I'll probably give this answer a couple times. We haven't given them a reason to come. Okay, we have it, and Bob and I actually talked about this today, and he'll touch on his thoughts on this. I don't want to put his words in his mouth, but we haven't given those people a reason to come, so they don't think of us, even though there is a huge piece there that would if we gave them. So that's the big global answer to the question. Go ahead, Bob. You can.
But I think back to the 80-20 you're talking about, Dennis, is let's focus on that. Let's focus on there's a reality that happened. It's called COVID. Let's get that big elephant out of the room, because what happened is, from 2009 to 2020 during COVID, there was a big void that took place. I mean, gyms went out of business. We had trainers that lost their careers. I mean, there's probably a good 30% of the actual trainers that were pre-COVID that never came back. It could be 40% that never even came back. So that whole career, we've lost a whole generation of a career cycle of trainers. Now we have to go look, and now what we have to do is start, and that's what I believe me and Dennis and Rocco and Eric and our group is doing, is focus on how do we create a career path again? How do we go penetrate this 80%, but we have to acknowledge, why is it 80%? Not that it hasn't been much different, but we had a better leg up pre-COVID because we built programming. There was boutique fitness. There was, great programming there where we weren't running an 80-20 model and training. We were able to expand to boot camp training inside the four walls of big boxes. And I'll reference Lifetime Fitness. We did a really good job at that. From 2000 to 2006, we really focused on not an 80-20 model. We started bringing in products. We started building out products, boot camps and different programs that can actually expand the net profit of each one of those programs. Instead of being an 80-20 model, we got it to a 60-40 model. And then the rest of the industry kind of looked at what we were doing and said, oh, let's copy them or let's follow them. I'll use follow, and I hate to use the word copying. So when COVID happened, the whole industry lost that. And so, personal trainers went and did online. They started their own, which was that gap. We're coming out of this gap still, and we need to focus on how do we make that gap shorter? How do we make that penetration better? And even if we look at a percentage, 1, 2, 3, 5% over the next 24 months, we've made big milestones. But we got to look at what actually happened, what was before, where we're at today, and where we're going to go. So we got to look at past, present, and future and say, what are we doing as leaders? How are we as leaders building programming? That's where, and guys, we've shared this, me and Dennis, I'm not promoting RAMP. I'm saying RAMP is a great tool that we should be looking at, and programs like RAMP that actually are a plug and play, that the operators don't have to go and they don't have to go build it. There's products out here that they can take advantage of, but they're not. And that's what I think what we should be focused on. How are we filling these gaps as leaders in our industry that can actually take a place, that can actually plug and play and give them an outcome, and really the focus is the member, is what's the outcome look like, and how are we focusing on that as leaders? Dennis, does that make sense?
Yep.
Did I summarize that well?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a great summary. And I want to go back to something you said earlier. You talked about how one of the important parts of running a big gym is building that experience out and making sure the users have a good experience. So if we're thinking about that 80%, and a large part of that 80%, we'll show the chart, is of that deconditioned market, right? They're not up to that high fitness level. So if I'm a deconditioned member or a deconditioned person, I'm looking to join a gym, what are the key features of a good experience for me? If I'm going in a gym, what's going to make me want to join that gym? What are the things that a good gym would do to make that experience something that would be positive for me?
Yeah, you want me to take that one?
Go ahead, Bob. Start up.
That's a great question, TJ. It's called connectivity and polarity in your organization. Does everybody know what to know? Are you putting together programs that your team members, and it goes back to team members, right? Do your team members understand what your objectives are? What is the company objective? What's the culture? What is it? What is your brand promise? What is your mission statement? What are your core values? Without having all that, TJ, nothing else really matters. I mean, it's got to start with culture, mission, core values, and then the objectives. What's the company objectives? And as the company objectives, does everybody in the organization understand what those company objectives are? Do they understand the mission? And does the customer experience replicate that? And does it send that message out so everybody knows what to know and how we achieve those objectives? And does the member know what those objectives are? 90% of the companies don't have an objective. They don't have a mission statement. They don't have the culture. And so that's where I believe the question you're asking, let's start there. And then the rest is a waterfall from there on out. Does that help you, TJ, with your question?
Yeah.
And Dennis, if you want to elaborate and tag on to that, please feel free.
Yeah, so just from my perspective on that answer, I think that's a good point, because I've definitely been to both kind of gyms that have a clear culture, and kind of that mission statement is omnipresent, and then other gyms which it's just, you show up and just do your own thing. So I've seen both sides, and you definitely get the feeling a well-run organization has that culture. The other thing I think I've noticed with really good gyms is like a good intake process. Yes. That can be really key. And I know that's something Rocco's mentioned before too from MASA, especially if you're coming from that deconditioned side, where you're not really familiar with maybe the equipment or you're intimidated by some exercises, having that good intake process seems like an important thing too. Dennis, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, you ran right in my wheelhouse, TJ. I'm a sales guy. Okay. I mean, yeah, I love fitness, and that's the reason I get in the business, and I stay well connected to it. But I'll sit down and talk sales with you from now until Bob gets out of the business.
Not soon. Not soon.
Yeah, so that tells you how long I'll talk sales with anybody. Okay. So Bob gave a very eloquent answer, and he's dead on right. So now again, we're talking about ourselves. Let me dummy it down for Dennis, okay? Because he's sitting there worried about his three $20,000 air conditioning units that just flew out this afternoon. Right? I said that just so people know that I do know what I'm talking about. Yes, it starts at hello, okay? However, Bob is right that we need to I'm going to get to the core of MASA. We believe that the industry as a whole needs to pull together and adopt a culture of a results-driven culture, that people are coming to us for help and we are going to provide it. Now, that is not what we are as a whole today. We are line them up, sign them up. How many free passes did you give out? What's our referral gift this month? Okay. So to put Bob's very well said thought down into, the Mark Cuban, we need to adopt that culture of we are about results. This new consumer, both the younger, the older, with longevity coming in and all that sort of thing, people are looking to get results from any type of health type of product. Bob's right. If I'm sitting at the desk as a sales rep, which I did for a long period of time, I'm not going to sell results. I'm not going to sell you on results, because I know behind me, my club can't deliver what I'm selling. Okay. So Bob answered programming. We as GMs, operators, owners, or whatever, need to find that programming that we can scale results. Okay. I don't want to go into detail. Les Mills did it for group fitness. He figured out how to scale quality programming when we couldn't find group X instructors and all that sort of thing. We need to figure out how we can scale results, being able to sit in front of everybody that comes in, teach our sales reps. You talk about the intake, and I could go on for 3 more podcasts about the intake. But we need to pull our sales reps in. They need a complete re-mindset. Okay. Take them in a room and say, look, it's no more of the, hey, look at my pretty treadmills and my pool and my basketball court, and hope they like something of everything I show them. We need to bring them in and almost do a physician type of questioning, right? And they need to be trained how to do this. And Rocco has it all written out. We don't even have to rewrite it. Train them how to get to and this is where everybody's going to hate me, not the why, but the what. Okay, we've been talking about the why since the 90s. The why is actually very important, but I can't deliver a result on the why. The why is I'm here because my wife told me I got to lose weight. My doctor told me I got to get in shape. I'm getting ready for a wedding. Well, I can't write a script that says, okay, got you ready for a wedding. That's the why, and that's the emotion that's driving you. We need to have an intake that gets to the what. Well, what do you mean be ready for the wedding? I want to lose 15 pounds, and I'm really short sheeting this. Okay, now I can write a result-driven response to that and get you to sign up and show you the path right here at the hello of how we're going to get you those 15 pounds off, and then actually deliver it. That's what MASA is all about, is getting clubs, everybody, the health club, the pyramid of our industry, right at the top. All the clubs should be at the very top. I've used the analogy before as restaurants. I want to go out and eat something. Okay, so the first word that comes into my head is restaurant. Okay. Then I go down the pyramid to what type of restaurant I want, but no matter what restaurant I go to, somebody's going to cook me food and I'm going to be satisfied with why I went there. I want to get healthier. The first word they should think of is health club. And Bob, I know Bob will agree with me on that. Planet Fitness wasn't our competitor, and we weren't Planet Fitness's competitor. Somebody that came to one of our clubs wasn't going to Planet. Somebody that went to Planet wasn't coming to us. We got to stop acting like I got to be better than them. So we need to have clubs at top, and clubs are the place people go to get better. I want to get better. I want to go to a health club. Okay. Now you can pick which one you want to go to. But if we're all driving that same mantra, we all driving that same culture, it doesn't matter whether you can provide results in a small HVLP. You can provide results in the biggest of Bahram's lifetimes. All right, it doesn't matter, and especially now that we're on strength, because everybody has strength equipment, and you don't need 100 pieces like we had in a big club. You can have a planet amount of strength equipment and still drive a strength-based results program. So that's to Bob, back all the way back to experience. It's an experience where we let the people know when they come in, we know you're here to get something from us. What is that? Deliver it. Stay connected to them in some way, shape, or form throughout their path to their results. And a couple things are going to happen. You're going to have a very satisfied customer. If somebody gets what they paid for, they're satisfied. It doesn't matter what it is. I paid for vacation. I got the vacation I want. I'm satisfied. Okay. So you give results, they're satisfied. You give them results, and when they go to Starbucks with their 5 other gal friends or whatever, they can't wait to tell every one of them. Now we're getting into the business return on that sort of mindset, because now we're going to drive referrals, which our business will live, die, and suffer and thrive on referrals. There's no getting around that. So it will do that. So Bob is right. The experience, we need to create a similar experience around the results-driven mindset, because every club can do that. We can't all be Lifetimes. We can't all be Planet Fitnesses. We can't all be Sporty Club, whatever the case may be. We can be ourselves, but we can all get results. If somebody loses 15 pounds in Bob's club and loses 15 pounds in a club, it doesn't matter. That's the same experience. Now, back to your 80%. Now the 80% has a reason to come to us, which I said the reason they're not coming is we haven't given a reason to yet. So does that make? You got me on sales. I warned you. Don't do that. don't do that, man.
I knew that was a softball for you. I was just pitching it up for
man,
you.
I'm like, geez, right or left field fence, man.
Yeah, I think that might have been a softball. I mean, a snowball, not a softball.
Snowball, yeah. Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the importance of results, I think you said it, and it makes me think that, results, I mean, I think as we know are that's what everyone comes to the gym for. You want to either look better or feel better. And if you see those results, you're more likely to stick around.
Can I add one word that probably will finish this and put a button? It's called outcome. Outcome. That's it's results than outcome. So there's got to be an outcome-based program that we should be looking at and delivering to our customers, which I believe is the biggest gap in the fitness industry right now. We're not following the outcome part of it as well as we should be.
Can you explain that? What do you exactly mean by outcome?
Yeah, outcome. So there's just not the workout itself. How about when you go home and you have all these options of supplements, and you have all these options of protein drinks, and you have all these options of, do I throw raspberries in there? Do I throw strawberries in? Do I throw, in your shake, or do I throw bananas? Those are all products of an outcome. So it's just not the gym itself. It's not the workout itself. It's what's your ecosystem like. Are you getting 8 hours of sleep? Are you taking, are you on some kind of, peptide or, some kind of supplement that's really part of your ecosystem, but it's really outcome based. It can't be 100% the gym itself, because you have an ecosystem that you're dealing with. So, the gym can give you a percentage of what where your goals are and what your objectives are, but it's really what is really filling that gap of the outcome itself. Does that make sense, TJ?
Absolutely. Yeah. Ecosystem is a good way, I think, to think about it. Yeah. When you're talking about supplements and diet and all that stuff outside of the gym, that's going to help you get that result you need to get. It's very critical.
Yeah. Are you getting your 7 or 8 hours of sleep? Are you monitoring it? I mean, there's so many apps out there now that can enhance you. You got the Aura Ring. You got all these different, tools that we never had in the toolbox over the last 40 years. I mean, there's so many tools that we can pull out of our toolbox that we really got to focus on the gym's a great part. It's not 100%. It's not, there's so many other tools that we have at our disposal that we can actually help us to get an outcome based result versus just a result itself.
Well, and real quick, and this is a real bugaboo for me. I'm going to try not to stay on this because I think this one will get me caught up. Bob makes a fantastic point, and which leads into the fact that why Bob and I would maybe later or now, whatever, will say that, as he said, he and I have seen every disruption cycle, whatever you want to call it, over. This one is different. Bob said it in a recent LinkedIn post. This one is different, and it totally is. And I've said it since the beginning of the GLP-1 thing. This is the greatest opportunity we ever had to get to that 80%. And why? The entire country is focused on health because of, Make America Healthy Again and RFK Jr. being all over TV, all that sort of thing. So the entire country is worried about health. Us boomers all of a sudden realize we're going to die. Not to be though, but it's actually sunk in, and so you have this whole longevity cluster mess. Okay, I'm going to make some other people angry too, but it's become a cluster mess, and it's become a chase to the goal, which Bob and I have seen over and over and over and over and over again, which is a part of actually to be fair to our kinfolk. Our public perception isn't all our fault. You have corny infomercials that have put stuff out. You have stupid TV shows like Biggest Loser. There I go picking somebody else up. But and the public starts to believe that's what we are. So Bob just hit on something. Like I probably saw about 20 different best of longevity thoughts today. I need to strengthen my thighs. I need to strengthen my hand grip. I need to get my VO2 up. I need to get my sleep. If I did all those longevity things, I'd be dead by the end of the week because, I just completely wear myself out. So there are people out there that truly want this. Get back to what we said about that. There's people that right on the line there that truly want this. But every time you turn social media on or, YouTube or whatever, you got I won't say those names. You got talking heads that are telling you what is best for longevity. Okay, so people that take 100 supplements a day, well, I wouldn't be able to eat if I put 100 pills in my stomach. Okay, we need to be the medical center for healthy lifestyle. If you when you get sick, you don't go to WebMD. Okay, you don't listen to Peter or Tia to decide what to do about your sore throat. Make a call, go to your GP. So you think of doctor. When people want to get healthy, when people want to know about longevity, the first thing they should think of is clubs. Now, we can only accomplish that, again, I won't rehash, by being able to deliver that. So we can't walk into Bob's Club and hear longevity is about my red light system that I'm selling tokens to, and it's some extra revenue. We need to truly be a provider of healthy lifestyle. Just like a doctor. You don't walk into a doctor and he right away goes to, okay, I'm going to send you to PT. He does an assessment, he finds out what you need, and he gives you the fit. Bob's right on your ecosystem. I can tell you increase longevity, stop smoking. I increase the chances of reduce the risk of you dying from, dying early. Okay. But Bob nailed it. It's got to be what's good for Bob might not be good for me. That doesn't mean there isn't something that is good for me. We need to be where people go, I forget what what's his name says on YouTube and forget what his name says on TV. Go over and see, my guy over at the Planet down the street here. He'll sit down and talk to you and, get you where you want to go. And then it all, as Bob said, all cascades down to we have to have the quality of providers to deliver that message consistently. Where back into my kinfolk people, we haven't always been so good at that on a consistent level.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I've noticed is kind of the inconsistency from gym to gym of quality or of that culture. So consistency strikes me as a big thing. If we're trying to attract people to go get healthy, they need to be able to have the trust that the gym is the right place to go. So Bob, I know was noting something interesting in your bio. I think it said you were part of the executive team that helped expand from something like 6 clubs to 120. Was that right? For
Yeah.
Lifetime Fitness?
Uh-huh. Yeah, I was part of the team that did that. It was an unbelievable team. These guys were all seasoned veterans, and the timing was right, and we all were in the right place at the time, and we were very blessed. But yes, to answer your question.
So when you did that, thinking about like scalability and standards
Yeah.
and how like a system needs to be efficient. I mean, what were some important takeaways you had from that whole process to scale something from a system from 6 to 120 gyms?
Well, the one good thing that when I met Brahma Karate back in 1998, they were a local brand in Minneapolis, the one thing that he did is he brought in some of his old team members from his first company. He owned a company called US Swim Fitness, and the original guys that started with him there, that really started in the first clubs that he had, now had morphed in and educated, and several of them had careers outside of Bahram's ecosystem in the 5 or 6 years that between the time that I got involved, and they all had specialty careers. The one thing that he did is he brought on a man named Mike Brown, and Mike Brown was worked with him in the original groups right from the square one. I mean, day one from sales, but became a general manager in his company, and then Bally's bought him. But what Mike did is he got in the education business, and what Mike and him did is he got Mike involved in Lifetime Fitness, and he built Lifetime Fitness University. Because to be able to scale that way, it goes back to mission, culture, and core values. And Mike took Brahm's vision and was able to incorporate that into the company, and it really was probably the one thing I can say the takeaways. He took all the team leads that Brahm had built in Lifetime Fitness for those 5 or 6 years prior to me getting involved, and took those and really siloed those, and they built an education system. So the education system was able to go and scale the company and go out to the different markets and replicate what he built in his vision. It was his vision. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. It was Brahm's vision, but Mike was able to take it and make it live. But Brahm was very difficult. He was very direct on how he wanted his objectives, and he made those objectives very clear. But he had that vision that Mike was able to, and the team, and I'm saying a team Mike had. It came from sales, night ops, all your different departments had a team that had a lead in that division that created Lifetime Fitness University. But I can tell you that was probably the biggest impact I could see as he was able to scale it. And that held true to every organization I've ever worked with going forward. The emphasis of how important the education and how the deliverable was coming out of that experience to be able to scale. It wouldn't have happened without it. But they were able to take Brahm's vision on mission, core values, and vision and brand promise to be able to make that live, and to give every team member going forward what that was and how to actually give that deliverable at a granular level. Hopefully I answered that question for you, TJ.
Yeah, you did. That was interesting. I mean, it sounds like that was a pretty impressive process to witness. And
absolutely,
I'm thinking about it in terms of scalability for MASA and for this consistency of programming. I mean, you're talking about how with COVID there was a big loss in trainers, right?
Yep.
And trainers are obviously a really important part of making people feel comfortable in the gym. So trying to think about what's a good way, what's the most efficient way that gyms can kind of be consistent in their intake process and in their programming or education, so that when people go in there, they're getting a consistent result.
I think casting is probably the most important part of that. Are you casting the right people to come into your organization? Are you have you vetted them well? Are they open to accepting education. See, I think the biggest thing we have a problem with is that because that gap is so deep, TJ, that we're having to recreate the education side of it and create a career. I mean, you got to remember, we're now having to create a career path for a generation that we lost, and I think that's going to be our biggest challenge right now going forward. And that's where I believe, with Rocco's program and the program that the Ramp has, is that it's going to re-educate trainers and get them excited about getting back into the industry because they're not in the industry. I mean, it's a fact. I mean, when we got into COVID, 50% of all trainers left the industry completely. How do we fill that now? How do we make that attractive? I mean, we were blessed coming out of the mid 90s that training there was not a monetary value to training at the time until you got to, there was a select maybe 5 or 6, club groups in the whole country that were even doing $50,000 and $60,000 in revenue from 96 to 98. With Lifetime Fitness, what Brahm was able to, get to critical mass is when he got to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and when he was able to expand into Detroit and to Chicago and to Centerville and to Indianapolis and Columbus, we were able to get that critical mass. So there was a heavy competition involved. I don't believe that competition is there right now. And that's where I'll go back to the HVLPs. There isn't that. So how do you take an HVLP that's going to 1.0, 2.0, 3.0? How do you get to 3.0 with a training department? And you're able to, and now you're having to have a test to capitalize that. That's where their gap is now, is that we not only lost career, now you're capitalizing a department that isn't there anymore. And now you're having to put maybe, $500,000 into capitalizing it with infrastructure. Now you have to get training, development, education involved to be able to take that for the next 18 months and now drive that, critical mass to get there. That's the challenge I think we're going to have, TJ. I believe in the personal training department to create that their career path. But it's got to start with the career path. But we have to support it with education and actually create a career path that you can feed a family, that you can raise 2 or 3 kids. That I think that's going to be our biggest challenge going forward.
Great. Dennis, do you have thoughts on that?
I don't, Bob, I'm not going to rehab. Bob touched on a really strong part of it. I'm going to add part B to it. To create a career path, we got to bring more people into the club. Somebody's got to be paying us money for us to pay the gym. Again, I'm going to go down into the dirt with this. I completely agree with Bob. And when I GM'd the large clubs, I also made myself the personal training director. I never wanted anybody between me and the trainer. So I've been managing trainers my whole career. I know their life. I know their struggles. I've hired, and Bob's right on all accounts. The COVID, we woke 2 sleeping bears with COVID. One was the paying, not playing member, which we have been scared of for 40 years, and it happened. The other bear we woke up was trainers who were so comfortable in the gym, they wouldn't move out of it because as much as people say about the limitation of a gym job for training, prior to COVID, it seemed even worse outside of the gym because unless you had the wherewithal to generate a in-home business, you were safer in a club. But COVID forced their hands. They went outside, and Bob says half of them went on to become electricians and carpenters and all that sort of thing. But then there was another half that said, hey, I can actually do okay out here and be my own boss and all that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So, there is a challenge. And yes, we do need to figure out how to create a career path. But the club has to make money and the trainers have to make money. So there's the P&L part of this challenge. And again, I'm going to go back to the core challenge and the core repair of our industry lies completely in the success of tapping into that 80%. We need more people coming into all of our clubs. Another thing that makes this opportunity so unique is that people aren't just they aren't the 20% coming that they don't want to pay anything. The reason we only penetrate 3% of our membership for personal training is people aren't coming to us. The 20% doesn't come for personal training. They come because they want the 10,000 treadmill that Bob and I gave them that they don't want to put in the house, or they want 5 different pieces of cardio, or they want the group fitness program, or they want a whole room of training. That's why they're coming to us. They're not personal training candidates, but these people on the fringe of the 80% are. They're like when I was dealing with physician referrals. They weren't coming for the treadmill. They were coming because they had diabetes. They had obesity. They had whatever condition it was. That's why they were there, and they needed support. They needed somebody to guide them. So the answer to Bob is dead on right. We need to create a better life for trainers so we can bring more trainers in, because we need them to service the 80% that we're bringing through. Part B of this is, and again, everybody's going to hate on me for this because we've said these words a million times and people in our industry hate hearing them. We need standards. Now, I'm not talking about medical level standards where we have licensures and all that sort of thing, but we need to be able to control, and again, I get to talk about trainers because I manage them. Let me go back and stick up for my trainers for a minute here. Trainers don't always do what they do because it's what they want. Somebody's going to pay them $100 3 times a week, and that's paying their bill. They're going to do what that person wants. Okay, I was one. I don't want to lose those 3 sessions a week. So if that person wants to do a waist and below workout, and they're going to pay me 3 times a week, even though I know it might not be right, I'm going to do it. So part of the blame we put on trainers for not giving quality training isn't all their fault. Okay, they have to survive off of what I call commercial trainers, which are most of that 3 and 5%. But anyway, if we're going to go to the physicians to send us the GLP-1 patients or the diabetic patients or whatever the case may be, or even if they're going to walk in on their own, we need to be able to control that experience. Now we're going to get back to Bob's word of experience. We need to be able to control that experience. If I send my mom down here to 24 Anytime because of, she's got poor flexibility or she's a diabetic or whatever the case may be, I want to know she's not on the fringe of needing medical care. She doesn't need, any diabetes medications, but she does need to lose some weight, whatever the case may be. I want to know that she's going to come out of there okay. Just like when you go into a doctor, you don't question whether the doctor's going to do what's right or not. You assume you're coming out better than you went in. We need to develop that. And to develop that and start creating a career for these trainers, we need to give them something to work with. One is the clients, and that's our job to drive more through the door. And drive more clients through the door, and at the point of sale, now we're back to the intake, driving them into attention-driven programming. You do it after the sale, forget it, okay? They're gone. You're not. You need to do it at the point of sale. Point of sale, we need to drive them into programs, and then we need to know that when we send them into the programs, they're going to get results. And so like Bob was talking about the RAMP program and programs like that, where there's a standard approach designed to drive to results. We need that because there's nobody sitting in our clubs controlling that. There's just not. There's no chief medical officer sitting there making sure all our doctors are practicing medicine the right way. We hire trainers right now. Our goal is $100,000 in revenue a month or whatever the case may be, and we do whatever we have to get there. We need some programming for the people that are coming with the objective to get better. And when we do that and we get people better, now we get more people in the program. Now trainers have more people to work with. Now trainers have more money. Now trainers have a career. And because they are now the doctors of the Health Club Medical Network. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And so tying some of that together, and then also I want to get Bob's opinion on some stuff. So tying the, getting people better in the gym, and also going back to Bob, your idea ecosystem, I want to touch on GLP-1s a little bit. Obviously, that's been really important. It's been it's found a foothold among certain people where they've had success as part of their ecosystem. But it doesn't seem like the gyms have been really able to tap into some of that synergy. So first of all, I want to ask, how important is resistance training when you're on a GLP-1 or similar weight loss drug?
It's more important than the drug itself, without a doubt. The drug itself is only a starter. It's not the cure. It's to help you get started. It's a motivator, but the whole strength and conditioning it's a 70-30 to me. 30% is the drug itself. 70% is the actual strength training. That's more important than anything else, because what happens if you don't manage the strength training and you only do the drug itself, you're going to lose about 70% of your lean muscle tissue. And that's with semaglutide. With tirzepatide, it's a little bit better. You're going to probably lose about 50%. But if you're not taking in at least 100 grams of protein a day, you're not focusing on a strength training program, then what's going to happen is you're going to sarcopenia, which is even more, it's worse than, the obesity part of it. So when you get to sarcopenia, you got way more, you're acceptable to more issues medically than you would being obese. But strength training is number one. I wouldn't suggest anybody getting on GLP-1, whether it be semaglutide or tirzepatide, without having a comprehensive strength training program, along with a nutritional program too. We use DotFit as our nutritional partner. They have the best. Everything we do in NextGen MD360 is all evidence based from the standpoint of nutrition through DotFit. So it's the medical side of it. It's the medication. It's the actual nutrition side of it, the exercise and the education side. So we don't deviate off of any one of those. But back to your question, to answer it better, the strength and conditioning part is 70% versus 30% of the drug.
That's fascinating. So hearing that, I would assume that like every gym would have some kind of GLP-1 strength training program and really capitalize on that, so those markets could tie together. As
you would think so.
Yeah. So it doesn't seem like we're seeing that. Dennis, why aren't we seeing that?
Wow. We want to do another whole podcast.
Probably is a whole other segment. It's probably TJ, probably another segment without a doubt. Go ahead.
Right now in my mind, I'm trying to decide which answer to grab. There's so many answers to that one, TJ. One is the stigma that comes with diet drugs. Let's start at the top here. Even within our own industry, I can remember, and I'm not going to name names, but it was a very influential individual in our industry, came out very loudly and said, we are not going to have anything to do with diet drugs. I mean, and it was a loud voice. Okay. Mm-hmm. So part of it is the stigma of being connected to diet drugs in our industry has scared owners, operators off it. I get it as an operator, owner, GM, whatever the case may be. I get it where members might go, what are you pushing the diet drugs for? Because we're loaded with people that are exercisers and think they know better than the people that are on diet drugs. So anyway, that's problem number one. Problem number two is, let's say you sit in the middle, but you've been in this industry long enough to know that anything we've ever tried to get into the medical space, quote unquote, has not really become anything. So you sit back and go, I can either spend my time chasing the 20% a day, or I can spend my time chasing this medical thing, which I've never seen come to fruition. And people that are medical patients, for lack of a term, aren't going to join my gym anyway. So there's that issue of it. We haven't demonstrated how we can turn them into members. And I understand that because, as you know, and Bob knows, I spent the 10 years working in a health system as a director. I was an actual health system employee, working with 300 doctors day in and day out. I lived in the belly of the beast in the medical space. So I get the roadblock there. But I will tell you, and I wish I could get every owner operator in a room to tell this story, and I'm shortening a very long story. Doctors want us. This is why GLP-1s, I've said it from day one, Bob has said it from day one. This is the only opportunity I have ever seen in all of my years where the medical world actually needs us. Everything that's come before, they have felt they could get around us by using physical therapy or using some type of medication or whatever the case may be. I can tell you for a fact right now, the medical world would welcome the support of what we'll call outpatient service program that they could provide strength training support. So when Bob says it's important, not only is it important from the medical perspective, but I can tell you from conversations with these people I worked with, orthopedic surgeries are being canceled because of GLP-1s patients going into, as Bob said, sarcopenia, where basically you're losing so much muscle tissue, you don't have enough, and you won't be able to get an optimal result from a surgery like a joint replacement because every time you cut into a body, there's atrophy that sets into the muscle. If you don't have enough muscle to take the amount of atrophy that's coming out of a surgery, I have a good friend that's an orthopedic surgeon, probably because all my surgeries I bought his vacation home. But tells me all the time, I had to cancel another knee replacement. I had to cancel another, rotator cuff because they're coming in. Yeah, they lost weight, but now there's nothing but skin and bone and no muscle in between. I can't cut into that. The surgery's going to be bad. So, and they can't, I'm saying this from inside the medical world. That is not a physical therapy billable program. They can't go to physical therapy. They can't go to occupational therapy. There is no space in the medical world that can service that need. So what happens? Bob will tell you this. Doctors skim over it. They're going to tell you that you need it, but they aren't going to be able to tell you what to do. First of all, they don't have time. Some don't have the knowledge, and it's too confusing of an answer. I will tell you from personal experience, if we had what we're talking about, which is a program that's standard, and it doesn't necessarily even have to be standard GLP-1s. It can just be a strength program for healthy condition. And when I had my medical program and I was working directly with doctors, I was a part of your program. Everybody saw it as a weight loss program because that's what they wanted. But physicians saw it as simply getting people more active that needed to get active. So I saw everything from weight loss to diabetes. I had someone come in a wheelchair one time, okay? Because doctors would take that opportunity to have that support. I know it for a fact. And especially now, this is why this is a great opportunity, because they not only they want us, because they're putting these patients on these medications, knowing the bad side effects, knowing sarcopenia follows, knowing that they're going to end up with a patient that's more unhealthy than healthy. If they lose the amount of weight they're going to lose, you lose, the more aggressive your weight loss, the more muscle mass you're going to lose. And now they're going to have a patient with a whole other problem that they have to deal with, which is significantly more difficult to come back from than it is to avoid. Diabetes. Diabetes is 10,000 times easier to avoid than it is to come back from. So why is not that happening? Because we need to meet the doctors where they want us to meet them, not where we think we want them to meet us. And if we did that, I can tell you, and now let's go back into the business of the business. I was getting 5 to 8 referrals a day from physicians. Bob will tell you, as an operations guy, if I came in with a marketing plan that said, I'm going to send you in 5 to 8 people a day that are going to join your gym, that 80% of them are going to join your gym, I don't care what you're selling me, I'm going to write the check. We have that opportunity right now. We have it. It's sitting right there on the tee, literally sitting right there on the tee. We just everybody needs to take a step back and say, okay, so it hasn't worked so far. So whatever we've done hasn't worked. Like you said, TJ, Why doesn't every gym have a GLP-1 program? Again, I can go on and on and on. Why? Here's the point. They should. That's Dennis, the GM, who was the most anti-anything GM you've ever seen. If there was ever a GM that wasn't going to buy anything new, I was that guy. Okay? I am telling you, as that guy, this is a huge swing and miss in our industry. We are never going to have this opportunity again. Never. And it is not going to go away. But the further away we get from the high point of this, the less chance there is of us being in the game.
Yeah, that was a great breakdown. Thanks, Dennis. So to kind of put a bow on this thing, I mean, with all your experience, you guys have a lot of experience in the industry, and considering things we talked about, what can the average gym owner do to start moving in the right direction? I'll start with you, Dennis.
I'm going to go back to what Bob said, is we need to start with a universal culture in the industry. We keep talking about having to program our product to the market. Because one of the reasons 80% don't come is, again, because what they think that we are those caricatured trainers on the biggest TV show. They're so afraid that's what they're going to get. Okay. Now, I keep saying we can't get rid of the 20% model. The line them up, sign them up, that can't ever go away. That's like Comcast subscription model. And now Comcast is getting into apps and all that sort of thing, but they're not getting rid of the subscription. We can't get rid of that model. That's keeping us afloat, but we can enhance our model. So first thing we need to do is we all need to agree we're going to adapt the results-driven culture. Just start with that one simple concept. We are a results. Now, results can be a whole lot of things. Results. Not everybody's going to want to come in and want strength training. Let's be perfectly honest about this. But everyone can come in and result. Results might be I sit down with you and I create a schedule of which group fitness programs you should do at what time to get what you want out of what you're coming here for. What we have to stop is got that signature, got that check. I see ya. Oh, I hope they don't ask me how they quit. We should be sitting there going, okay, so you want two strength, two aerobics type classes and a yoga class. Let's pull out a schedule and let's create one for you. Okay, so you're going to come Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, 5, 6 o'clock classes. That's a result for that person. To Bob's point, that turned into an outcome. They got that. That's all we need to do. You got to take baby steps in this industry. This industry does not have a palate for a big bite of the pie, even though there's a huge pie sitting there. Let's just start with, because if we can't do that, we can't go to step 2. Step 1, Bob said it so well before. Step 1 is everybody that walks into our clubs today knows we are there to give whoever we touch a result. Everybody checks in. How you doing with your program, TJ? How's it going? I would even go so far as to put it on the check-in screen. TJ's goal, lose weight. So when it pops up, I mean, look, I would have 1,000, 2,000 people come through a day. Bob knows that type of activity. But a screen pops up and the front desk person who has 20 people in line goes, oh, hey, TJ, how you doing? How's your program coming that you're working on with Bob? Do you know what that would do? That's like walking to a restaurant and the person goes, Dennis, the table in the back's ready for you. Your candy drinks are there. Okay? I'm going back next Saturday. Right? So that's where we started.
Thanks, Dennis. Bob?
Yeah, I think Dennis is 100% correct on everything he said. I think the only thing I would add to that is we need to create a polarity amongst the members and the team members and the gym itself. Without the polarity and connectivity, it's a broken wheel. So I would say, let's go back to the original statement I said is build the experience, start with the mission, start with the culture, go to culture, go to core values, vision, mission, and then build polarity within your organization that everything's connected. I think that's where our biggest broken pieces are, TJ, is that the clubs I go into now, and I'm not saying any individual because there's so many good ones that are going on right now and doing the right thing. But I would say the ones that are gapped, that if I was to go in and seeing a gap, is they don't have any polarity and they don't have any connectivity between the members and and the team members and the members themselves and the management too. So I think that's my contribution to wrap it up and put a bow on it, TJ. And Dennis is right. Go ahead.
Well, those are great answers, guys. I appreciate all your insight. You guys have given us a lot to think about, and I'm really glad both of you are part of the MASA team. So
thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot for joining, and look forward to doing another one soon.
Thanks, TJ. Thanks, Bob.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining today's podcast. Really good one today with Bob Thomas and Dennis Mathias. Really enjoyed that conversation. As always, check out our website, makeamericastrongnow.com. I'll put the link below. And please send us a message if you want to join the movement. This is really a grassroots movement, and we need everyone on board. It's just going to make America stronger, faster, and that's what we want. So please like and subscribe if you like this message, if you like our channel, and check back for the next one soon. Thanks, everybody. Bye.